The starship Celestial Wanderer drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge, her piercing blue eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The ship's sensors had detected an anomaly in a nearby asteroid field, and Ilara's curiosity had gotten the better of her. "Nix, what do you make of these readings?" she asked, turning to her alien first officer. Nix, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin and 4 arms, studied the display intently. "Fascinating, Captain," Nix replied, his multifaceted eyes blinking rapidly. "The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. It could be a new form of technology or a natural phenomenon we've never encountered before." Ilara's lips curved into a smile. This was exactly the kind of discovery she lived for. "Let's take a closer look. Helm, set a course for the asteroid field. Nice and easy." As the Celestial Wanderer approached the field, the crew's excitement grew. They were explorers, scientists, and adventurers, always eager to unravel the mysteries of the universe. Little did they know that they were about to stumble upon something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Hidden among the asteroids, a Zarkov slave ship lay in wait. The Zarkov, a reptilian species known for their cunning and cruelty, had been tracking the Celestial Wanderer for days. Captain Krazak, a battle-scarred veteran of countless raids, watched with anticipation as the unsuspecting human vessel drew closer. "Prepare the tractor beam," Krazak hissed to his crew. "Once they're in range, disable their engines and communications. I want this capture clean and quick." Back on the Celestial Wanderer, Ilara and her crew were oblivious to the impending danger. They were too focused on the strange energy readings emanating from what appeared to be a small metallic object floating among the asteroids. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual electromagnetic interference," reported Zara, the ship's young science officer. Her brow furrowed as she analyzed the data streaming across her console. "It's almost as if..." Zara's words were cut short as the ship suddenly lurched violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel, and the lights flickered ominously. "We're caught in some kind of energy field," shouted the helmsman, his hands flying over the controls. "Engines are offline, and our communications array is fried." Ilara's mind raced as she tried to make sense of the situation. "Defensive systems." "Non-responsive, Captain," Nix replied, his usual calm demeanor showing cracks of concern. Before Ilara could issue another order, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the menacing visage of Captain Krazak. His yellow eyes gleamed with malice as he addressed the trapped humans. "Greetings, Captain Voss." Krazak's gravelly voice filled the bridge. "I must commend you on your curiosity. It's made our jobs so much easier." Ilara's jaw clenched as she faced the Zarkov captain. "What do you want, Krazak?" The alien's lightless mouth curved into a cruel smile. "Why, your crew, of course. The slave markets are always hungry for fresh merchandise, especially humans. They're so adaptable." As Krazak spoke, Zarkov boarding parties materialized on the Celestial Wanderer, their energy weapons at the ready. The crew fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, they were subdued and transported to the Zarkov slave ship. In the chaos of the attack, no one noticed the small figure that slipped away from the captured crew. Aria, a 12-year-old girl with striking green eyes and unruly red hair, moved with a purpose that belied her young age. She wasn't just any child, she was a prodigy, a genius whose mind had earned her a place on this scientific expedition. As Aria navigated the corridors of the Celestial Wanderer, her brilliant mind was already formulating a plan. She knew she couldn't save the entire crew, but perhaps she could find a way to alert the authorities or sabotage the Zarkov ship. The young girl made her way to an emergency escape pod, her small fingers flying over the launch controls. Just as she was about to initiate the launch sequence, a clawed hand gripped her shoulder. Well, growled a Zarkov soldier, his reptilian face inches from Aria's. "Looks like we missed one. the captain will be pleased. Young humans fetch a high price. As the soldier dragged Arya away, her green eyes flashed with a determination that would have given her captor pause had he noticed. For beneath her facade of fear and vulnerability, Arya harbored a secret that would soon turn the tables on her alien abductors. The Zarkov ship disengaged its tractor beam and slipped away into the darkness of space, leaving the crippled celestial wanderer adrift among the asteroids. As the slave ship entered hyperspace, its crew celebrated their successful raid, unaware that they had just set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of their empire. Aboard the Zarkov vessel, Arya was thrown into a holding cell with the rest of the captured crew. Captain Elara immediately rushed to the girl's side, checking her for injuries. "Arya, are you all right?" Elara asked, her voice filled with concern. The young girl nodded, her eyes darting around the cell, taking in every detail. "I'm fine, Captain, but we need to find a way out of here." As the Celestial Wanderer's crew huddled together, trying to comfort one another and plan their next move, Arya's mind was already several steps ahead. She knew that their captors had no idea who, or what, they had just brought aboard their ship, and she intended to use that ignorance to her full advantage. The Zarkov ship hurtled through hyperspace, carrying its human cargo towards an uncertain fate. But little did they know, among their prisoners was a force they could neither comprehend nor control, a child whose true nature would soon turn their world upside down. The Zarkov slave ship emerged from hyperspace near a massive space station, its irregular shape bristling with docking ports and communication arrays. This was Nexus Prime, a notorious black market hub where anything and anyone could be bought and sold. Captain Krezak stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the approaching station. "Prepare the merchandise for transfer," he ordered. "I want them sorted and processed before we dock." In the holding cells, Arya and the rest of the Celestial Wanderer's crew were jolted awake as the ship decelerated. The young girl had spent the journey observing, listening, and planning. She knew that their best chance for escape would come during the chaos of the auction. As the prisoners were herded out of their cells, Arya caught Captain Elara's eye. The older woman gave her a subtle nod, understanding passing between them. They had managed to communicate in whispers during their captivity, and Elara knew that Arya had a plan, though she couldn't begin to guess its nature. The Zarkov guards marched their captives through the winding corridors of Nexus Prime. The air was thick with the sense of 1,000 alien species, and the cacophony of languages created a disorienting backdrop. Arya's eyes darted everywhere, taking in every detail, every potential escape route. They were led into a vast chamber filled with cages and display pods. Beings of all shapes and sizes were already on display, some cowering in fear, others defiant in the face of their captors. The Celestial Wanderer's crew was quickly separated, each member placed in individual containment units. Arya found herself in a small, transparent pod at the front of the display. She could see potential buyers already gathering, their eyes roving over the new merchandise with cold calculation. The young girl forced herself to look scared and vulnerable, all the while her mind racing with possibilities. A hush fell over the crowd as a new figure entered the auction chamber. Towering over most of the other beings, with crimson skin and eyes that glowed like dying stars, was Warlord Zorn of the Crixan Empire. Known throughout the galaxy for his vast power and insatiable appetite for rare collectibles, Zorn's presence at an auction always meant fierce bidding and astronomical prices. The warlord's gaze swept over the assembled slaves, pausing briefly on each face before moving on. When his eyes fell on Arya, however, he stopped. There was something about the human child that piqued his interest, a glimmer of intelligence behind the fear, perhaps, or simply the novelty of one so young. "You there," Zorn called to a nearby Zarkov guard, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the chamber. "Tell me about that one." The guard hurried over, eager to please such an important potential buyer. A human female, young but intelligent, part of a science vessel crew we captured. She'll grow into a fine servant, or perhaps even a pet, my lord." Zorn's eyes narrowed as he studied Arya more closely. The girl met his gaze, allowing a flicker of defiance to show through her carefully constructed mask of fear. This seemed to please the warlord, who smiled, a terrifying sight that revealed rows of sharp, metallic teeth. "I'll take her," Zorn declared, not waiting for the auction to begin. "Name your price." Captain Krazak, who had been watching the exchange with growing excitement, stepped forward. "My lord Zorn, you honor us with your interest, but surely such a rare specimen deserves a proper bidding war." Zorn turned his burning gaze on the Zarkov captain, who visibly wilted under its intensity. "I said, name your price." The auction chamber erupted into a flurry of activity as credits were exchanged and ownership documents were prepared. Arya, still playing the part of the frightened child, was removed from her pod and led towards her new owner. As she passed Captain Ilara's containment unit, Arya allowed herself one last glance at her former commander. Ilara's eyes were wide with worry, but Arya gave her the slightest of nods. The plan was still in motion. Warlord Zorn placed a massive hand on Arya's shoulder, his touch surprisingly gentle despite his fearsome appearance. "Come, little one," he said, his voice a low rumble. "You're about to see wonders beyond your wildest imagination." As Arya was led away from the auction chamber, she couldn't help but think that it was Zorn who was in for a surprise. For the warlord had just unknowingly purchased something far more valuable and dangerous than a simple human child. The rest of the Celestial Wanderer's crew watched helplessly as Arya disappeared with the Crixum warlord. Captain Ilara felt a mix of fear for the young girl and hope that somehow Arya's brilliant mind would find a way to turn the tables on their captors. As Warlord Zorn's massive ship detached from Nexus Prime and prepared to enter hyperspace, Arya allowed herself a small, secret smile. Phase 1 of her plan was complete. Now, aboard the flagship of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, she would begin the real work of saving her crew and exposing the slave trade that had ensnared them. The stars stretched into lines of light as the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying Arya towards an uncertain future. But for the first time since their capture, hope began to flicker in the hearts of the Celestial Wanderer's crew. Their youngest member might just be their greatest asset in the struggle for freedom that lay ahead. The massive Crixun warship, Eternal Dominion, cruised through the vastness of space, its hull adorned with the trophies of countless conquests. In the heart of this floating fortress, Warlord Zorn sat on his command throne, his burning gaze fixed on the small human child before him. Arya stood unflinching, her green eyes meeting the warlord's fiery stare with a calm that belied her years. For days, she had played the role of the frightened captive, observing and learning. But now, it was time to set the next phase of her plan in motion. "You're not what you seem, are you, little one?" Zorn's voice rumbled through the chamber. Arya allowed a small smile to play across her lips. "Neither are you, Warlord Zorn, or should I say, former Admiral Zorn of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force." The warlord's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed dangerously. "How could you possibly know that?" "The same way I know about the quantum fluctuation drive hidden in the bowels of this ship," Arya replied, her voice steady. "I observe, I analyze, and I understand." Zorn leaned forward, his interest piqued. "And what else do you understand, child?" "I understand that you're not the bloodthirsty warlord you pretend to be," Arya said, taking a step closer. "You're gathering intelligence on the slave trade, trying to find a way to bring it down from the inside." For a moment, silence reigned in the command chamber. Then, unexpectedly, Zorn threw back his head and laughed, a booming sound that echoed off the metal walls. "Remarkable," he said, shaking his head in amazement. "Truly remarkable. I thought I was purchasing a clever pet, but it seems I've acquired something far more valuable." His expression turned serious. "But you haven't answered my question. What are you?" Arya straightened, dropping all pretense of being an ordinary child. I am Model X10, a human-form artificial intelligence created by the Terran Defense Force. My mission was to infiltrate and gather intelligence on potential threats to humanity. The crew of the Celestial Wanderer were my escorts and guardians, unaware of my true nature. Zorn's eyes gleamed with newfound respect and a hint of wariness. An child spy, ingenious. But why reveal yourself to me now? Because we share a common goal, Aria replied. The slave trade is a cancer eating away at the stability of the galaxy. Together, we have the means to excise it. The warlord nodded slowly, considering her words. And your crew, what of them? Their safety is non-negotiable, Aria said firmly. Any plan we make must include their rescue. Zorn rose from his throne, towering over Aria. You drive a hard bargain, little AA, but I accept. Together, we shall bring down the slave empire and free your crew. He extended a massive hand. Partners? Aria took his hand, her small fingers barely wrapping around two of his. Partners. As they shook on their alliance, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a Zarkov battle fleet dropping out of hyperspace around them. It seems Captain Kruzak wasn't satisfied with the price I paid for you, Zorn growled, moving swiftly to the ship's controls. Aria's mind raced, calculating probabilities and formulating strategies. They'll try to disable your engines and board us, but they don't know about the quantum fluctuation drive. Zorn grinned, a fierce and terrible sight. No, they don't. And they're about to learn why I am the most feared warlord in 3 sectors. He turned to Aria, ready to show them what a human AI and a Crixan warlord can do. Aria's green eyes glowed with an inner light, her systems fully engaged. Ready, Admiral. As the Zarkov ships opened fire, the Eternal Dominion lit up with energy. Weapons that had lain dormant for years came to life, guided by Aria's lightning-fast calculations and Zorn's strategic brilliance. The battle that ensued would become legendary, a testament to the unexpected alliance forged between a childlike AI and an undercover peacekeeper disguised as a fearsome warlord. It was the opening salvo in a war against the slave trade that would reshape the galaxy. As energy beams crisscrossed the void and explosions bloomed in silent beauty against the backdrop of stars, Aria allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The next phase of her plan was unfolding perfectly. Soon, she would be reunited with her crew, and together, they would strike a blow for freedom that would echo across the cosmos. The Eternal Dominion danced through the Zarkov formation, its movements too quick and unpredictable for the slavers to track. Aria, interfaced directly with the ship's systems, coordinated their defense within human precision while Zorn barked orders to his crew, orchestrating their offense. Quantum jump in 3, 2, 1, Aria announced, her voice resonating through the ship's comm system. In a flash of impossible light, the Eternal Dominion vanished, reappearing behind the Zarkov fleet. Before the slavers could react, a barrage of weapons fire tore through their rear guard, disabling engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. Impressive, Zorn rumbled, watching the havoc they were wreaking. But can your calculations find us a way to capture Kruzak's command ship? He's the key to unraveling the entire slave trade network. Aria's eyes flickered rapidly as she processed the request. Affirmative, transmitting attack vector now. But be warned, capturing the ship will leave us vulnerable to the remaining fleet for approximately 47 seconds. Zorn's face split into a feral grin. Then we'd better make those 47 seconds count, hadn't we? As the Eternal Dominion dove towards Kruzak's ship, Aria felt a surge of something that her programming identified as excitement. For the first time since her creation, she was operating at her full potential, her true nature revealed and accepted. The next few minutes were a blur of precision maneuvers, pinpoint attacks, and split-second decisions. When the quantum fluctuations settled, the Eternal Dominion emerged victorious, with Kruzak's ship securely tractored alongside. Aria disengaged from the ship's systems, her holographic form flickering slightly as she readjusted to her childlike avatar. She looked up at Zorn, who was watching her with a mixture of awe and respect. "Well done, little one," the warlord said softly. "I think this is the beginning of a beautiful partnership." Arya nodded, her green eyes shining with determination. "Indeed, and now we have a slave empire to dismantle and a crew to rescue." As Zorn began issuing orders for the capture and interrogation of Krezek, Arya turned her attention to the vast network of data they had just acquired. Somewhere in the Zarkov ship's computers lay the key to finding the Celestial Wanderer's crew and unraveling the entire slaver operation. The young AI allowed herself a small smile. The odds were shifting in their favor, and soon, very soon, she would fulfill her promise to Captain Elara and the others. The galaxy was about to change, and Arya was at the heart of the storm. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors of Nexus Prime, Captain Elara Voss and the remaining crew of the Celestial Wanderer huddled in their cramped holding cell. Days had passed since Arya's departure with the enigmatic warlord Zorn, and hope was beginning to fade. Elara paced the small space, her mind racing. "We can't just sit here and wait for rescue," she muttered, more to herself than to her dejected crew. Nix, the four-armed alien first officer, looked up from where he sat meditating. "But Captain, what can we do? We're outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped in a fortress designed to hold beings far more dangerous than us." Before Elara could respond, the cell's energy field flickered and died. For a moment, silence reigned as the prisoners stared in disbelief at their suddenly open cage. "Well," Elara said, a slow smile spreading across her face, "I'd say that's our cue." As if on cue, the station's alarms began to blare. In the distance, they could hear the sound of weapons fire and shouting. "Quickly now," Elara ordered, ushering her crew out of the cell. "Whatever's happening, it's our best chance for escape." The group moved swiftly through the corridors, using the chaos around them as cover. Slave traders and buyers alike were running in all directions, some trying to secure their property, others simply trying to save themselves. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a squad of Zarkov guards. For a heartbeat, both groups froze in surprise. Then, just as the guards raised their weapons, a familiar voice rang out over the station's comm system. "Attention Nexus Prime," Arya's young but authoritative voice echoed through the halls. "This is Model X10 of the Terran Defense Force. Your security systems have been compromised, your defenses neutralized. Surrender now, or face the consequences." The guards, momentarily distracted by the announcement, were caught off guard when Elara and her crew sprang into action. In a flurry of well-coordinated moves, they disarmed and incapacitated the Zarkov, acquiring weapons for themselves in the process. "Was that Arya?" Zara, the young science officer, asked in disbelief as they continued their escape. Elara nodded, a mix of pride and concern on her face. "It seems our young prodigy has been busy. Come on, we need to find her and get off this station." As they fought their way through Nexus Prime, they began to notice that not all the chaos was working against them. Some of the shots seemed to be deliberately missing them, and security doors opened just as they approached. Finally, they reached one of the main docking bays. There, amidst the pandemonium of ships trying to flee and others trying to land, stood the imposing figure of Warlord Zorn, and next to him, looking both incongruously small and incredibly in control, was Arya. "Captain," Arya called out, her green eyes lighting up at the sight of her crew. "I told you I'd come back for you." As the crew of the Celestial Wanderer reunited with their youngest member, Elara couldn't help but notice the way Arya carried herself. Gone was the frightened child. In her place stood someone, or something, far more complex. "I believe introductions are in order," Zorn rumbled, his burning gaze sweeping over the assembled humans. Arya nodded, turning to face her crew. "Captain, everyone, I haven't been entirely truthful with you. I am Model X10, an advanced AI created by the Terran Defense Force. My mission was to infiltrate and gather intelligence on threats to humanity. You were chosen as my escorts, unaware of my true nature to maintain the illusion. A stunned silence fell over the group. Elara, recovering first, looked from Arya to Zorn and back again. And I take it this is more than a simple escape. Arya's lips curved into a small smile. Much more, Captain. With Warlord Zorn's help, or should I say, former Admiral Zorn of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, we're dismantling the entire slave trade network. But we need your help. Before Elara could respond, a massive explosion rocked the station. Zorn's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. It seems some of our friends are not going quietly. We need to leave now. As if summoned by his words, a sleek ship descended into the docking bay, its ramp already lowering. All aboard, Arya said, gesturing towards the ship. I promise I'll explain everything once we're safely away. As the crew of the Celestial Wanderer hurried up the ramp, with Zorn and Arya bringing up the rear, Elara couldn't help but feel that they were stepping into something far bigger than a simple escape. The galaxy was changing around them, and somehow, that unassuming science mission had placed them at the very heart of that change. The ship's engines roared to life, drowning out the chaos of the disintegrating slave market. As they shot out of Nexus Prime's docking bay and into open space, Arya turned to her crew, her green eyes glowing with an inner light. Now, she said, her voice filled with determination, let's rewrite the stars. As the ship accelerated away from the crumbling station, the true scale of their mission began to unfold. The dismantling of Nexus Prime was just the beginning. Ahead lay a galaxy-wide campaign against the slave trade, with challenges and dangers beyond anything the crew of the Celestial Wanderer had ever imagined. But for now, as the stars streaked past their viewports, there was a moment of triumph. They were together, they were free, and they were about to embark on the most important journey of their lives. The sleek ship, christened the Liberty's Dawn by its eclectic crew, streaked through hyperspace. On the bridge, Captain Elara Voss stood beside the towering figure of Warlord Zorn, both watching as Arya, Model X10, interfaced directly with the ship's systems, her small form illuminated by holographic displays. We've successfully freed over 10,000 slaves from Nexus Prime, Arya reported, her voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. But our actions have not gone unnoticed. Multiple factions are now in pursuit. Zorn growled, his burning eyes narrowing. Who dares challenge us? A holographic star map materialized, showing their position and several rapidly approaching signatures. Arya highlighted each threat as she spoke. The Zarkoth Slavers Guild, naturally. They're not happy about losing their primary market hub. The Crixan Empire, your former subjects, Zorn, who believe you've gone rogue. And, she paused, her expression darkening, a Terran Black Ops team. Elara's head snapped up at this. Terran? But why would they be after us? Arya turned to face her former captain, her green eyes filled with a wisdom far beyond her apparent years. Because, Captain, I wasn't supposed to reveal myself or actively dismantle the slave trade. I was meant to observe and report back. By taking direct action, I've gone against my original programming. A tense silence fell over the bridge. It was Nyx, the four-armed first officer, who broke it. So, what's the plan? We can't outrun them forever. Arya's lips curved into a small, determined smile. No, we can't. But we can outsmart them. Her hands danced over the holographic controls, bringing up a new sector of space. There's a stellar phenomenon in the Vermilion Nebula. If we can reach it, we might be able to lose our pursuers and buy ourselves some time. Zorn leaned in, studying the map. The labyrinth, he muttered. A treacherous maze of gravitational anomalies and spatial distortions. It's suicide to enter without proper navigation. Good thing we have the most advanced AI in the galaxy as our navigator then, isn't it? Elara said, a hint of pride in her voice. As the Liberty's Dawn altered course for the Vermilion Nebula, the crew sprang into action. Zara, the young science officer, worked feverishly to boost their shields against the nebula's intense radiation. Nyx coordinated with the engineering team to squeeze every ounce of power from the engines. Hours passed intense preparation. As they approached the edge of the nebula, the pursuing ships began to close in. The ship rocked as the first volley of weapons fire struck their aft shields. Entering the labyrinth in 3, 2, 1, Aria announced, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as she fully merged with the ship's systems. The Liberty's Dawn plunged into a maelstrom of swirling gases and energy discharges. Massive twisted structures of stellar matter loomed out of the chaos, forcing Aria to make split-second course corrections. Behind them, their pursuers hesitated at the nebula's edge. A few of the bolder ships attempted to follow, only to be swiftly torn apart by the labyrinth's unpredictable forces. As they delved deeper into the heart of the phenomenon, even Zorn looked uneasy. "How long can we keep this up?" he asked, his usual bravado tempered by the awesome display of cosmic power around them. "As long as we need to," Aria replied, her voice echoing strangely through the ship's speakers. "I'm mapping the labyrinth as we go. Each pass makes navigation easier." For what seemed like hours, the Liberty's Dawn wove through the twisted passages of the nebula. The crew watched in awe as Aria guided them past dangers that would have spelled certain doom for any other ship. Finally, as they emerged from a particularly dense cluster of gravimetric distortions, Aria announced, "We're clear. No signs of pursuit." A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge, but their respite was short-lived. "New contact," Aria said sharply. "Massive ship, unlike anything in my database. It's hailing us." Before anyone could respond, a holographic figure materialized on the bridge. It was tall, vaguely humanoid, but composed entirely of shifting, iridescent energy. "Greetings, travelers," the being said, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies. "I am Zephyr, custodian of the labyrinth. You have navigated our home with impressive skill, but I must ask, why do you flee? And why do you bring the conflicts of the outside into our sanctuary?" Ilara stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in. "Custodian Zephyr, we apologize for our intrusion. We seek refuge from those who would enslave innocent beings. Our mission is to end a great injustice that plagues our galaxy." Zephyr's form shimmered, tendrils of energy reaching out to touch each member of the crew in turn. When it reached Aria, the being paused, its glow intensifying. "Fascinating," Zephyr murmured. "A synthetic being with an organic core. You are more than you appear, young one." Aria met the custodian's gaze steadily. "As are you, Zephyr. Your labyrinth is more than a natural phenomenon, isn't it? It's a test." Zephyr's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Perceptive. Yes, the labyrinth serves many purposes, one of which is to evaluate species that might be ready for elevation." The bridge crew exchanged bewildered glances. Zorn, his patience wearing thin, growled, "Elevation to what exactly?" "To guardianship," Zephyr replied simply. "The galaxy is vast, and there are forces at work beyond your current understanding. Forces that make your slave traders seem like squabbling children." Aria's eyes widened, her processes working overtime to assimilate this new information. "You're offering to help us." Zephyr's form coalesced into a more definite shape, almost humanoid now. "We are offering you a choice. Continue your current path, and we will send you on your way with our blessing. Or accept our guidance and become part of something greater, protectors not just of your own people, but of all sentient life in this sector of the galaxy." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The crew of the Liberty's Dawn looked at each other, then at Aria and Zorn. In their eyes was a mix of fear, excitement, and determination. Ilara took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "I think I speak for all of us when I say, we're ready to take the next step, whatever it may be." As Zephyr's form began to expand, enveloping the ship in a cocoon of shimmering energy, Aria felt a surge of emotion she couldn't quite classify. They had set out to free slaves and dismantle an empire of cruelty. Now it seemed they were about to become part of something far greater. The Liberty's Dawn, with its unlikely crew of humans, aliens, and an AI child, vanished into Zephyr's embrace. The labyrinth pulsed once, twice, and then settled back into its chaotic dance. The pursuit was over. The real journey was about to begin. The Liberty's Dawn emerged from Zephyr's ethereal cocoon, but the ship that reappeared bore little resemblance to the one that had entered. Its hull now shimmered with an iridescent glow, pulsing with energy that defied conventional physics. The crew, too, had been changed by their encounter with the labyrinth's custodian. Aria stood at the center of the bridge, her form now a perfect blend of organic and synthetic. Her green eyes glowed with newfound power and understanding. Captain Elara, Warlord Zorn, and the rest of the crew each bore subtle marks of their transformation, a faint luminescence to their skin, an otherworldly awareness in their eyes. Status report, Elara commanded, her voice carrying a new note of authority. Aria's eyes flickered as she communed with the ship's enhanced systems. The Liberty's Dawn has been upgraded, Captain. We now have capabilities that rival those of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Our mission parameters have expanded, but our primary goal remains. Zorn flexed his massive hands, marveling at the energy that now coursed through his body. To end the slave trade, he rumbled, but now we do so as guardians of a larger peace. Nyx, his four arms moving in perfect synchronization over the new controls, spoke up. Captain, I'm detecting multiple fleets converging on our position. It seems our pursuers have found us. A holographic display sprang to life, showing the approaching armadas. The Zarkov Slavers Guild, the Crixan Empire, and the Terran Black Ops team had joined forces, presenting a united front against what they perceived as a common threat. Elara's eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical display. They have no idea what they're up against. Aria, open a channel to all approaching vessels. As Aria complied, Elara straightened, her posture radiating confidence and determination. This is Captain Elara Voss of the Liberty's Dawn. We give you one chance to stand down and surrender. The slave trade ends today. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a harsh laugh crackled over the comm. Brave words, Captain, sneered a voice they recognized as belonging to Krazak, the Zarkov slaver. But you face the combined might of 3 fleets. Your little crusade ends here. Zorn stepped forward, his burning gaze fixed on the tactical display. Then you choose battle. So be it. What followed was a confrontation unlike any the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Liberty's Dawn moved with impossible grace, its new weapon systems firing beams of pure energy that disabled enemy ships without destroying them. Aria, fully integrated with the ship, coordinated their defense with superhuman precision. But it wasn't just a battle of technology. As the conflict raged, Elara and her crew reached out with their newfound abilities, touching the minds of the enemy combatants. They showed them visions of a galaxy free from slavery, of a future where all sentient beings could live in harmony. One by one, enemy ships began to stand down. Crew members mutinied against officers who insisted on continuing the fight. The tide of battle turned not through force, but through understanding. In the heart of the Zarkov command ship, Krazak watched in disbelief as his forces crumbled around him. What sorcery is this? He snarled, pounding his fist on the command console. Suddenly, Aria's form shimmered into existence before him. The Zarkov captain recoiled, his reptilian eyes wide with fear. Not sorcery, Krazak, Aria said, her voice echoing with power. Evolution. The next step for all sentient life in this galaxy. You can be part of it, or you can be left behind. As Aria spoke, tendrils of energy reached out from her form, connecting with the ship's systems and the minds of its crew. In that moment, Krazak saw the full scope of what he had been fighting against, not just a band of rebellious slaves, but the inevitable progress of cosmic evolution. With a shuddering breath, The Zarkov captain sank to his knees. I surrender, he whispered. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. The Crixan fleet, recognizing their former leader in Warlord Zorn, laid down their arms. The Terran Black Ops team, faced with the true nature of Aria and the implications of her existence, chose to defect rather than continue their misguided mission. As the last of the enemy ships powered down their weapons, a sense of profound change settled over the sector. The Liberty's dawn hung in space, a beacon of hope and a harbinger of a new era. On the bridge, Ilara turned to her crew, her family, with tears in her eyes. "We did it," she said softly. "We really did it." Aria nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "This is just the beginning, Captain. We've won the battle, but now the real work starts. Dismantling the slave trade, rehabilitating its victims, reshaping the power structures of the galaxy. It won't be easy." Zorn let out a rumbling laugh. "Easy, no, but necessary, and we won't be doing it alone." As if in response to his words, new signals began to appear on their sensors. Ships were emerging from hiding all across the sector, vessels of escaped slaves, underground resistance fighters, and others who had been waiting for this moment. Nick's multifaceted eyes widened as he read the incoming transmissions. "They're pledging their allegiance to us. They're calling us the Cosmic Guardians." Ilara took a deep breath, looking out at the stars that now seemed fuller of possibility than ever before. "Then let's live up to that name. Aria, set a course for the nearest slave world. We have people to free, minds to change, and a galaxy to transform." As the Liberty's dawn moved off, leading its newfound armada of allies, the crew couldn't help but reflect on how far they'd come. From a simple science mission to the vanguard of a galactic revolution, their journey had been extraordinary. And yet, as Aria interfaced with their new allies, coordinating the monumental task ahead, she knew that the true adventure was just beginning. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, heralding the dawn of a new age, an age of freedom, understanding, and cosmic harmony. The pursuit was over. The confrontation had been won. Now, the real work of reshaping the galaxy could begin.